Welcome to the How I Started Career Stories podcast, where we will interview CEOs, entrepreneurs, and company leaders to hear how they got to where they are on their career journey. We'll talk about the early days, the setbacks, the risks they took, and ultimately how they're using their learnings now and into the future. I'm Andrew Kappel, your host. Let's get started with this week's episode. Welcome to an edition of the How I Started podcast, filmed virtually, but also live from the Sales History Museum. Maybe next time, Todd, we'll have to, you'll have to welcome us to do a live recording. We've done one live shoot with Rob DeSantis, who co-founded Ariba in Rhode Island, where I live. We did that last year, and we have another one that should be out by now that was in New York City. So maybe we'll host a live episode in the future at the Sales History Museum if you'd be open for that. But without further ado, welcome and let's hear it.
All right. Well, it's good to meet, good to finally meet you face to face. I know we've interacted quite a bit. And before we hit record, got a little background on your business too. So I think this will be fun.
Absolutely. So Todd, how did you start? And, maybe fast forward the boring, sales leader, not the boring, but the standard sales leadership stuff. And we'll cut into to all that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just the kind of cliff notes, the first part.
Yeah.
I was grew up in sales, mainly tech sales. I was like a B plus rep, like not the greatest, but okay. But I always knew that leadership and kind of this behavioral science and learning was my jam. I, back in 2003, quit my job because I couldn't get a leadership role. And I bought a sales training franchise, ran that into the ground.
Oh, geez.
But I came out of it with a new sense of just structure and process and the value of that in sales. And I was a consultant for a couple of years, seeing how sales organizations worked and didn't work. I came out of that, moved into an operations role, and then quickly got promoted to be an SVP of Sales for a tech company based in the Valley. And so I had 7 different leadership roles over the next, I guess it was 11 years. Here's what happened. So 2017, 2016, I was the chief revenue officer of a company based in Chicago called Power Reviews.
Yeah.
You probably didn't hear the name before, but you've used the technology and didn't know it. If you've bought stuff online, like Crocs, you buy a pair of Crocs, you're looking at the shoes, you scroll down, there's reviews under it. That was us doing the collect and display of those reviews. And for them and 1,000 other retailers and brands. So here's what happened. We did a study with Northwestern University here in Chicago, where I'm based, just looking at buyer behavior when a website is acting as the salesperson, right? So nothing to do with business-to-business sales or anything, or so I thought. There were 3 data points that came out of it, 2 of which changed my life.
Okay.
Like, meaning I quit my job as the CRO of the fastest growing tech company in Chicago to write a book like a lunatic. So here's the 3 data points. First one, didn't change my life, is that we all read reviews when we're buying something we've never bought before, right? So buying something, you don't trust just what the company's saying. You want to see what other people say about it. But the 2 that changed my life, number 1 was over 80% of us, so it's around 85% of us, skip the 5-star reviews and go right to the negative ones first.
Okay.
All right, so you skip the 5s, you read the 4s, 3s, 2s, and 1s first. And when I talk about this, everybody's like, "Yeah, that's me. I don't trust the 5s." All right, cool. The last data point is that a product on a 5-star scale that has an average review score between a 4.2 and a 4.5, that's optimal for purchase conversion. In other words, a product that has negative reviews sells at a higher product conversion, again, when a website's acting as a salesperson.
Yeah.
Than a product that has nothing but perfect 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
And so I started looking at that going, wait a second, as a CRO, like my sales team, we basically present our solutions as perfect. And like, hey, we're 5s and our competitors suck. And like, are we actually doing a disservice? Does that website, when a website's acting as a salesperson scenario, actually equate to human? Is that just something we're wired to be? And the answer was yes, that when we are making a purchase, we need the negative to be able to process the positive. And we subconsciously know that perfection doesn't exist. And until we get that negative, we can't even make a decision. So we started trying this, right? Trying, meaning when we're going into sales engagements, we started by revealing what we gave up to be great at our core, or maybe a story about something had gotten screwed up and what we learned from it, or our price point being a little higher, right? We'd start with the negative and lead to the solution. And all of a sudden, sales cycle shrank, right? We were getting to decisions much faster. Our win rates went up, partially because we were qualifying deals in better and faster, partially because we were losing the deals we were going to lose anyway, faster. And we made it really hard on our competitors to message against us. And like I said, we became Chicago's fastest growing tech company from 2014 to 2017, according to Deloitte. And so you could tell, like you mentioned, you joked about the sales museum and everything. I love this profession, like I almost to a crazy nerdy level. And I was like, hey, wait a second. Honesty and transparency not only feels good, but it sells better. And today, 2025, the proliferation of reviews and feedback means you got to do it anyway. I got to get these ideas out there. And so, like a lunatic, I quit my job, signed with a publisher, and wrote my first book, The Transparency Sale. Now, I had no intentions of building a whole business around it, right? And we're going to talk about this in a second. But yeah. I quit to go write the book. I figured I would write it. It would suck because I've never written a book before.
And then get back in, yeah.
And then probably go get sucked into being a CRO again somewhere.
Yeah.
But it ended up taking on a life of its own. And so the short answer to how I started this was a review or a study done by Northwestern University that had nothing to business, but nothing to do with business.
B2B. Business. Yeah.
Triggered me into a business that I'm now in my 7th year doing.
Yeah. It's those, it's almost like those loose connections, rather than like your strong connections are kind of informing, how you do what you do. And so exactly. you found this consumer purchase study, and then you realize like, why, does this model apply to B2B? It did. No one's talking about it. And then you kind of became obsessed with it.
Exactly. And it took on a life of its own. And I mean, this profession has dragged the bottom of Gartner's annual or Gallup's annual ethical professions study for 20 years, right? It's salespeople, politicians.
Yeah.
It didn't used to be that way. Like back in the 1910s, sales was trusted and respected, and in some cases even admired. Why? Because sales was a service profession back then. We turned it into this pounding, convincing profession. We kind of lost our mojo. And I just have always felt like we've got an opportunity to get it back, not only because it feels good, but like I said, it sells better.
Yeah. So that's a long-term vision, or that's a long-term trend and an opportunity to attach your career and your focus and your professional interest to. So that's awesome.
Yeah, you got to feel like you can change the world. I found that probably never going to fix it for everybody, right?
But hey, it's a big TAM, and like you can create a pretty nice business off of it.
Exactly.
So, so you talked about that decision to quit, like quote unquote, you're at the top or like on the rocket ship going up, and you jumped off. And what was that journey like? I'm curious to hear the feedback or the reception you got from your network. And I'm sure it wasn't as smooth as, how it's turned out over the last 5 years.
Well, yeah. So, Andrew, you and I were talking a little bit before we hit record about all the people that want to go do something, right? And oftentimes they say they want to do it, but they just can't get them to do it.
Yeah.
So here's what happened. I started writing, and I realized I can't be a CRO and write at the same time.
Right.
And you know what? Summer's coming up. My kids are young. Like, I'm going to go write. I'm just going to focus on it. So I resign. I have a meeting literally across the street in downtown Chicago, coffee meeting with kind of like an accidental mentor. He's a retained search guy, but we just had gotten to be friends.
Yeah.
I go over to the meeting, and he's like, "Hey, Todd, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm like shaking. I just resigned. Like I just told Matt I'm leaving." And he's like, we had the kind of small talk about that. And then Mike, this accidental mentor, looks at me and says, "Todd, look me in the eyes right now and tell me that you're going to say no to everything for at least the next 3 months." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, Mike, I'm going to write a book." Like, yeah. He's like, "Todd, look me in the eyes right now and tell me that you are going to say no to everything for the next 3 months. And I'm like, yeah, Mike, I am. And then he went on to explain that, listen, you've got to get comfortable with how much cash you've got. You got to get comfortable with worst case scenario. And if you can't say no to everything for at least a period of time, you're never going to be successful in this. The other piece of it is he's like, Todd, you're a successful CRO. People know you. I'm telling you, within a couple of weeks, you're going to start getting calls, and there's going to be things thrown at you that are going to sound like once in a lifetime, you can't pass this up opportunities. And if you even think about it, you will never get a book out and you will never see this through fruition. Then I was like, it's a good point. Mike, I'm going to say no to everything. Sure enough, 10 days later, I get a call from the president of Salesforce.
Oh, geez.
And he's like, hey, my brother, like, I heard you left. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to write a book. And he's like, you're going to write, you're an idiot, Todd. You're not going to write a book. Go be a CRO for my brother's company. He needs somebody like you to build it up. They're going to exit in 18 months. And I'm like, Andy, I'm writing a book. And he's like, Todd, think of the stories you'll have if you run another one up for 18 months. And I'm like, Andy, it's not a memoir. It has to be written now, right? And so I said no to him, and I started saying no to everybody. The last piece of that for everybody that's thinking about going out on your own is, if I look back now, I'm 100 times more valuable now than I was back then. That this experience is like the most souped up MBA I could have ever gotten, PhD, whatever you call it. And that was part of Mike's point. He was like, Todd, success or fail, at the end of 3 months of full commitment, you will be more valuable, not less valuable.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the lesson for everybody. And for me was, I had to get super comfortable. And the first words out of my mouth needed to be no, when somebody presented a new opportunity to me, because that focus is the reason I'm still doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. The resiliency, and like, it's worked out well for you. You have another book coming, so we'll talk about that. But even if it didn't work out, as you had said, like the experience and the perspective and the different mindset, like it is, an opportunity for just about everyone. It doesn't have to be a long-term thing. Like Todd and I have talked, like, we're not going back, but if things work out, we're not going back. But like, some people like it, some people don't. And just to take that season, and like, the circumstances are never going to be perfect. You were on a rocket ship and you stepped off. And so like, you can be at the top or at the bottom. And like, if you can make it happen, like, you're going to pick up different skills and different perspectives, and you just might like it and never want to go back.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like I talk to companies about, the companies oftentimes say their customers are like, we want to do a pilot. And they're like, pilot never actually represents what it's going to be like in the active live environment. It's the same thing with you. If you're going to go out on your own and you're piloting it, and I'm kind of trying it, but I'm it's not a representation of what life as an entrepreneur can actually be too. So go all in for a short period of time.
Yeah.
After 3 months, take a look. Go, is this working? Do I want to keep doing this? And then my advice is commit to another 3 months.
Yeah.
Commit to another. Like, go 3 months at a time.
Yeah.
Don't make decisions on emotional highs or lows. Just pick a date, put it on the calendar, 15 minutes. I am going to decide whether I want to do another 3 months of this or not.
Yeah.
Make the decision and go. I'm telling you, it's made a huge difference for me. Now, the second part of your question was about the ups and downs.
Yeah.
Right. And like, it wasn't all lollipops and unicorns and all that. I'll tell you two quick things.
Okay.
Number one has to do with what you told me before we hit record, that in your business, you've had to try things.
Yeah.
And some things have worked. Some things people are like, that's awesome. And then they don't buy it.
Yeah.
And then some things that seem maybe a little less exciting are the things that everybody wants.
Yeah.
Right. And so at the beginning, I tried everything. So I did consulting. I did training and workshops. I did keynotes. And I just tried all three for a little while. I very quickly realized that I don't dig the consulting, right? Like, it was not my jam. I was not having a lot of fun with it. And so I doubled down on keynotes and workshops, and that became my focus. And when people ask me to do consulting, I say no, and I refer it.
Yep.
Like you can't, like, not all money is exactly the same. And that's the way that I felt. Like, my most valuable asset I can convert to revenue is my time. And if I'm not spending that wisely and spending it on the things I love,
then you won't want to keep going.
Exactly. So that's number one. Number two, though, is in this business, it is a roller coaster. Always. You will have incredible quarters followed by crappy quarters. For what I do, it's so hard to see out more than 3 or 4 months at a time. And you got to get comfortable with that, right? It's, for me, like Q1 was the best quarter in my business by far. I actually did more revenue in Q1 this year than I did in all of 2020.
Nice.
Now, that's awesome. And then Q2, it's kind of shitty, right? Like it's not going, it's a little bumpy. You got to get comfortable with that. For me, 2019 was that first year I got focused. I was like, I think I can do this for a while, right? So beginning of 2020, I get intentional. I put together a business plan. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. This is how it's going to work. And then March of 2020 comes along and punches you in the face. You basically throw that in the garbage and you start over. That's part of what this is.
Yeah.
It's like, you can't predict the future. As long as you've got a good foundation built, you can survive those ups and downs. But no, like, May and June of 2020, my revenue was like almost zero for 2 months in a row. And I was like, I'm going to have to go be a CRO again. But I was comfortable with the fact that it will come around. The economy will come back. And sure enough, phones started ringing again. And here we are 5 years later, still going.
Yeah. So it's like that 90-day plan. Like, it's, businesses run with that. You kind of run with that yourself. And
you have to.
And so, Todd, talk about, this is how we first got connected. Obviously, I've seen your books and keynotes and watched, subscribe to the Sales History podcast, which we'll put in the show notes. But we got connected because you had talked about writing a report for yourself. And just talk a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it's funny that it might be weird. So as a CRO, having board meetings is a stressful time. It just is. Whether things go well or they don't, walking into a room with a bunch of people that are writing the checks and they're judging everything you're doing and trying to pick the holes apart and all that. It's great. It feels good to get feedback and see the holes that maybe you're not able to see, but it can be stressful. The most enjoyable part of it for me was putting together the prep, because it allowed me to actually see what was going on in my business, right? Like, I had my CEO was like, Todd, why are you doing it? We got RevOps. They can put together all that. Like, what are you doing? I'm like, if I'm not the guy doing the calculations, I don't know the numbers. I don't see it. And my RevOps guy was freaking awesome. Like, he helped me so much to find the stuff. But I put it together myself. So you go from that environment where, well-funded, you got a formal board, you got to go get your butt kicked by every 3 months, to going out on my own. The thing I missed was putting together the board prep. And so as an entrepreneur, I started doing that for myself. Now, I'm not doing it every quarter. Maybe I should, but at least once or twice a year, I go through and I dissect my business top to bottom. Where's my revenue coming from? By vertical, by demographic, like, who are the buyers within there? What's my win rates and loss rates in there? How long is my cycle lengths based on firmographic and demographic? Like, I dig apart all of that. And then at the end, I did a SWOT analysis, right? SWOT for some people is considered old school, but it's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and just kind of document, where is my strengths? Where are the weaknesses in the business? Where are the opportunities, and what are the things that could stand in the way of getting to where I want to go? And just that exercise I would do for myself. I'd put together the slides. I would get ready like I'm going to go to a board meeting, and then I wouldn't do anything with it. But man, it helped me see the holes and to get refocused, and it continues to. And as an entrepreneur, I'd suggest you keep doing it.
Yeah, no, I did it for like our 2024 business, like 2024 look back and then 2025 go forward, because I just needed to get all of the craziness onto a concise slide deck and to be able to share it and to frame things, because there are, something I've learned is there's a lot of people on the journey, both other entrepreneurs, business leaders, folks like in sales and marketing, go to market. They just want to help you, especially when you're getting going on your own. So you have to kind of make it easy to help. And I think I put in there, it's like, if you know a CEO who's 20 to 100 people, I'd love to talk with them and just learn a little bit more. And so I would get referrals. So you have to kind of, it's a give to get. You share these insights and you share the learnings, and then it's like, it's gotta, share the ups and downs too. I think I put like, here's all the failures, and like that's real. So.
Well, yeah, and I'll tell you, like, one of the things that's really valuable for me is, so I've built my business to be an inbound. So it's all referrals. It's all people that have gone, like, used me at one company, go to
Yeah.
another, bring me in, all that sort of thing. When I get the referrals, though, I analyze who the role is of the people that are coming inbound.
Yeah.
So if it's a CEO, CRO, SVP of Sales, head of enablement, ding, ding, like, those are all great.
Yeah.
What I discovered is when it's a training department within an organization, like generic training or HR, my cycle lengths were longer, my win rates were much lower, right? Because, like, I don't teach traditional, like, cold calling or social, like, my stuff is transparency and messaging and positioning and presenting and negotiating and leadership, right? Like, that's my focus. It's not your standard stuff. And HR people are having a hard time relating to it and then selling it internally. And so by doing the board study and looking at that, I was like, holy crap. I'm like, when I get an inbound from HR or generic training, my time is not converting as well. I either need to fix that by getting better at working with them, or just qualify out of those when they come in.
Yeah.
I chose kind of a hybrid where I'll have an initial discussion with them and kind of figure out where their brain is. And then at the end of it, I will either qualify out, or I will try to get, the people that are actually valuable to my conversion rate involved. And if I can't, I qualify out. It's been huge, right? You get an inbound lead and you're like, yay.
Yeah.
But if it's the wrong inbound lead and it's taking you forever and you're losing a bunch, the yay is like, you can't think that way. And that's the kind of stuff that if you don't dig into your numbers, you don't see.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. So it sounds like you got that issue sorted out, and then I'm sure you'll find the next thing to work on, the next rock or key initiative. But for the rest of 2025, what are you focused on and excited about?
So in 2018 I wrote the transparency sale, and it was based on the idea that, hey, I wanted to get these ideas out there and just make the profession a better place for whoever read it. That it still does really well, which is crazy. Like, it still sells every week. There's still, 10 plus people buying this thing on Amazon, which is cool. In 2022, I wrote The Transparent Sales Leader. That was the wrong title for the book, as it turns out. My publisher wanted to stay with the transparency theme and play on it, but the book isn't about being a transparent sales leader. Like, that would be a brochure. Like, be transparent. Yeah, of course. It's like, the book is a framework for revenue leadership, optimized by science on a bed of transparency. So it goes through, if you've never been in revenue leadership, get the book. It gives you a framework, right? The salespeople have frameworks and processes. Leaders don't. I made one for myself years ago, tons of experience and research into it, and then lay that out for everybody. So that's that book. The most popular thing that I teach, and the most popular chapter in the first book, is something called transparent negotiating. Which became, it's called 4 Levers Negotiating. And it's like, I'm teaching it next week in LA. I'm teaching it, like, I'm on the road constantly. It's so popular because it's so easy. It builds trust instead of erodes it. You're not learning FBI negotiating techniques. You're using 2025 cards face up approaches to the way that you talk about pricing, propose it, negotiate it. And I finally have gotten to the point where everybody's like, I need this. So I spent the last 6 months writing. Right now I'm in edit. The book will be out on January 27, 2026, but it's called 4 Levers Negotiating. That is a huge focus. I'll be promoting the crap out of that, but and then still speaking and teaching a lot. But check out Four Levers Negotiating. By the time this podcast come out, it should be available for pre-order anywhere that you get your books. But I'm really excited about this one because I think I'm a better writer now.
Yeah.
But it's a manual to help you feel better about negotiating. And you should discount less.
Yeah.
You should build trust instead of erode it. And you should see your forecast become more accurate too. So
yeah,
that's the key right now.
It sounds like you have a pretty nice feedback loop too, where you give the trainings and the keynotes, and you're able to figure out what the questions are coming up, and so you're able to use that. I think back to, I haven't written a book, at least, it is on the 5 or 10 year roadmap, maybe a children's book. I'll start there.
Nice.
But Tim Ferriss, like when he puts out his books out, he would run like test paid ad copies, like Google AdWord copies, with different book titles to see what is resonating. And that's how he came up with the 4-hour work week. Like he thought, he hated it, but then like he ran, like before ChatGPT, he like brainstormed a dozen and then put those out there. So he used that. I don't think he had as strong of a feedback loop as you, where you're going to visit all these people. And so I think you have a pretty good pulse of what people are looking for, which is great.
Yeah, and I'm going with a different publisher this time that's given me some really strong advice, that's done some incredible books and works. And so, I'm being more focused, more methodical about the approach for this one, because I really, again, I'm totally biased, but I want to get these ideas out there too, because I just don't believe that in the future we can have every one of our customers paying a different amount based on how well or poorly the negotiation went.
Right.
Like that's just not sustainable. I think AI is exposing our pricing models already and will continue to. So you need a framework or a structure for the way that you do this that feels good, cards face up, and makes your deals more valuable. And that's the goal. And hopefully I've done it better than I've done it in the last 2 books, which were both pretty successful.
Sounds like good timing. And so, Todd, the last thing is the Sales History Museum. Can you just plug that for if there's anyone still listening at this point who who likes sales and who likes history? What's that about?
Well, it's when COVID hit, I had a book. It's from 1947 called The 5 Great Rules of Selling by Percy H. Whiting, and I was reading through it and I was like, this is amazing. Like it's all the same advice. All the LinkedIn posts are exactly the same as they would have been back then. And in the book, he continues to refer back to older books. And so I started trying to see if I could find those books. And it was like on eBay and all of that. I started buying everything. And it's turned into this kind of massive library. And then there's like this here for anybody who's watching. This is an original, fully restored phone from 1908. It's got full wiring on the inside. It's called a cathedral style phone. You would have found this in like a corner pharmacy or something like that. The bell rings. I'll ring it for anybody who's only listening. But I got that. That's a 1921 fully restored. And then these books are anywhere from the 1800s. This book is from 1896 called Pushing to the Front by Orison Swett Martin.
Wow.
It's all sales leadership. This book smells like the corner of your grandma's basement. But old magazines, like this one is the sample case. It's April of 1903. I find all this stuff, I gobble it up. I post at Sales Historian on Instagram and Twitter every single day, just a quote or a clip or something. And then, like you said, the Sales History Podcast is my outlet for all of this nerdery. They're short 12 to 20 minute episodes where I dig into a topic and then I just share the history of it. I do it for no other reason than it's a hobby, but there was a lot of things they did right that we do wrong today that I try to elevate too. Because again, sales was trusted and respected back then.
Yeah.
Not so much now.
Yeah.
I've put my finger on the 3 reasons why, and I try to share that as much as I can.
Awesome. Are you in intense bidding wars on eBay, or are you going to estate sales and getting this stuff for cheap? Like what's the acquisition process? Like how?
Well, it's I get on eBay and there's not a whole lot of people that are fighting for this.
Okay.
So I can usually be the only one who bids, or I can reach out to the seller and go, hey, listen, I just bought like this collection up here. It's called Practical Salesmanship. It's from the 1920s. I bought that whole collection if you go on eBay now, you can buy the whole collection. And I think the current seller is trying to sell it for like $300.
Wow.
I bought that for $47.
Wow.
And it was just like reaching out to the seller and just be like, listen, like, here's the story on this. And they're like, yeah, go ahead.
That's awesome.
So there's a lot of that. A couple of these books I have gotten from antique stores. So this one is from, I believe it's 1887. It's called The Business Guide, Sales Methods of Business. I can't find, oh, there it is. Yeah, 1887. So 1887 on this one, I just found for like $10 sitting at an antique store. Right. So it comes from everywhere. eBay, Abe Books, and then, if I'm at an antique store or something, I'll go run in and see if anybody's dumb enough to sell an old sales book for like $10.
That's great. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up there, and we'll put all the links to the Sales History Museum and the podcast and your old books and your new books and your website and everything in the show notes. So awesome. Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah, it was great being here. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you like the podcast, please subscribe and also share it out on LinkedIn or with friends, colleagues, or classmates who might like the show as well. You can also get the newsletter at leaderlev.com/podcast. You can find that also in the show notes.